Hey guys, Kurt from Time Machine Transport, just on the interstate, leaving Chicago. Had to go to this place, this clinic for my VA claim. But so I'm driving back to Kenosha. Figure I'd do story time, help the time pass a little bit. So my experience when I first got my CDL. I got my CDL in 09, I believe it was. 08 or it was 09, I believe. Anyways, I went to the Swift, the trucking company Swift, the Swift Training Academy or the driver's school, whatever. So in order to do that, you got to call their recruiting office. As a new truck driver or a person that wants to get their CDL, we don't know, all the jokes about Swift and whatnot. So, damn, dude, fucking pass on the left. And I apologize. I say all the time and whatever. So say and so a lot. So I get accepted to go to the class. It was in the wintertime or like almost spring. I think like in February. Yeah, I think it might have been February. Anyways, so they get me a bus ticket to go from Wisconsin to Lewiston, Idaho. That bus ride took like 4 days. It was the most uncomfortable trip I think I've ever had, except for one time we were in the military. I'll have to tell you about that truth as well. So anyways, get to Lewiston, and Swift gets us a I think we ended up stopping or getting off at a bus station. I want to say it was like Spokane or Tacoma, Washington. It was something like that. Back in the day, I was geography illiterate. We'll just say that. I knew about Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota. That was about it. I didn't know where anything else was on the map. So I want to say Washington, but anyways, it's not important. So we got there's other driving students on this bus that came and got us to bring us to our hotel in Lewiston, Idaho. We were staying at a Super 8. And so we load the bus, and there's probably maybe 20 of us on the bus. Now the class itself was huge. It was huge. Oh, make me a sandwich. The class was huge. There was like 250 some people, I want to say, at the beginning. So anyways, there's probably like 20 of us being picked up by this Swift bus. It was like a regular conversion bus. And I was looking at all the guys. I think there was one gal too. But I was looking at all the guys because they had told us that we're going to end up being cellies with, another student or whatever, because they got 2 people to a room. So I was looking around the bus and I'm thinking, which one that I would prefer that looked clean. I didn't care white, black, Hispanic. It didn't matter to me. But I was looking around the bus and I saw the one guy, and this is funny. Open up and take a drink. Every time I get excited, man, my mouth gets real dry. So I'm looking around the bus. Excuse me. And I say to myself, I'll take any of these guys as my cellie or my roommate, except for that guy. He was a short dude, bald head. He had like ears that kind of stuck out. Like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. And he was missing all of his front nuggets on the top. And the dude looked like a chimpanzee. I'm not kidding you. He had all the features, even like the front face. He looked like a chimpanzee. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm just saying what it is. And I'm just saying to myself, anybody but that guy. Well, guess who my fucking roommate was? And his name, I kid you not, is Kurt. So I'm Kurt, and my roommate, my cellie, is Kurt. Swear to God, I complete truth. And so I remember we both went to our room, and go to your room, go to your fucking room. And so we go in. It's late. It's like, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night. I mean, that's not late. But when you've been on a bus for 4 days, and then you get back to you get to your hotel, and then find out that the guy you were saying that all these other guys except for him, you ended up going in the same room with the guy. And we got to be up at 4 because the bus for the school is going to be at the lot or be out front of the hotel. So we had to be in the lobby at 4:45 in the morning. Obviously in the morning. Well, you don't really know, obviously, right? Could be PM, but makes more sense for 4:45 a.m. And so now we get into our hotel room. And like I said, it's probably like around 10 o'clock in the evening after being on the bus for 4 days. Tired as shit, haven't slept, haven't really eaten enough food or good food. And now you're in this room with this chimpanzee. And then we have to be up at 4 in the morning. So I'm like, fuck. Now I haven't showered because you're on the bus for like 4 days. And I didn't know that that's exactly how trucking went, that you wouldn't. I mean, you could shower every day. I carry enough clothes in my truck where I literally could probably shower every other day and not have to do laundry on the road. Doing laundry on the road, it's expensive. And, you know, washing your shit with other people that have had their laundry in those washer machines and dryers, I'm just not keen to it. So, anyways, now I'm in the room with this chimpanzee, Kurt. And Kurt ended up being the coolest, funniest motherfucker I've met a lot of funny people. But Kurt was cool. So there, you know, that kind of proves to you, like, don't judge a book by its cover, or don't assume that if somebody looks a certain way that they're a POS, right? So shame on me. But the very first night, I didn't know he was cool. So what I did, I dropped my bags on my bed, and he dropped his on his. Actually, we slept in the same bed. No, we didn't. He dropped his shit on his bed. I dropped my shit on my bed. I said, dude, I gotta take a shower, man. And of course, you don't know each other, so you're pretty quiet. And so what I do is I don't want to leave. You know, I mean, I didn't really have much because, like I said, I lost everything when I came out of construction in a 2008 real estate bust. I was owed hundreds of thousands of dollars. I had 15 guys, 3 trucks. I lost everything. I was living on my mom's couch. I almost put the pistol in my mouth. I was just that down. And a buddy of mine was the one that got, and I'll have to go back to that one. Carl was the person that I thanked, and I continue to thank, that got me into trucking. But hands getting tired again. However, Carl was a piece of shit. He was a piece of shit. I'm gonna do a video on this guy. We're the most ruthless trucker I've ever met in my entire life. So anyway, I tell Kurt, I'm like, I had to take a shower, man. So I grab what valuables I had brought with, my money. I didn't leave any of that shit out in my bag because I'm judging the book by its cover, right? But even if I did, even if it were one of the other guys that I would have preferred to be my roommate at first, I more than likely wouldn't have left my wallet and my cash out in the room anyways. You don't know who the fuck you're going to deal with, right? So fast forward, take shower, wake up at 4, we're in class, 5 o'clock a.m., and there's a shit ton of people. Like I said, there was probably like 250 some students, and the very first day, so it was a 3-week, I want to say a 4-week course. It was like, or it was like 3.5 weeks, because we did a week of classroom, a week of range, and then road week. But the first half of the, and we did class every single day. We didn't get any time off. So it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was challenging when I first, because until, just a few years ago, I got involved and started learning the mechanics of the truck and the trailer, and we got our authority in 2014. So the business as a whole, but I hadn't, I was never like a mechanic guy, or what they call grease monkey or anything like that. So when they were first going over everything, I'm like, wow, this is pretty overwhelming. So we started, we'll just say for simple math, we'll just say 250 people. So the first half a week, oh, that's a cool ass truck. The first half of the week, or first three days, whatever, was all, paperwork. So we all had to transfer our driver's license from whatever state you came from to Lewiston or to Idaho, because of the testers or whatever it was. So we had to transfer our license into to an Idaho license. We had to do all the paperwork, introductions, this and that. And they said, all you guys are going to get piss tested. No ifs, ands, or buts. You're going to get piss tested. It's not going to be random. Every one of you is going to, drop urine. And they said, if you let us know now that you're probably, or you might think that you might come up hot on a piss test, let us know now. We won't, block you or whatever, flag you. We'll send you back home on our dime. And, turn out my air. That's probably why my mouth is so dry, because the shit's pointing right at my mouth. Anyways, so they said if you come up, so if you come and tell us, we'll get you back home on our dime. When you feel you're clean, we'll bring you back out. But nope, people had to roll the dice, man. And they said if you piss hot, you are gonna get kicked out. You will not get a bus ticket from us. You're gonna go home on your dime, and you will never drive or come back to this school. So, of course, people didn't listen. Oh, and we had to do our physicals, too, that first few days. Check to make sure you didn't have diabetes. You could pass the regular DOT physical. So with the first wave of people that pissed hot, didn't pass their physical, like the first few days, and this was the weird part. So the ones that got tested right away, if you came up hot or whatever, you were gone before you even hit the actual classroom. So the first couple days, we lost from the physicals and the piss tests. Well, the first wave of piss tests, because we even had some people that pissed and were hot, but they got sent home like on the second week or whatever. So I'm not really sure how that worked out, but anyways, so the first week or the first couple days, we lost probably, and we'll just say for simple math, 50 people, but it was more than 50 people. It reduced the class like bam. Then we went after all the paperwork, the driver's license, the physical, the piss dropping, learning about this, learning about that. The first week was classroom. Went over everything pertaining to the truck, logs, just all that kind of stuff, what to expect, so on and so on. And then the second week, we'll call it the second week, was range week. And so Kurt and I are getting along super well. I mean, this dude was fucking phenomenal. And it was during the NBA playoffs, I think it was, and him and his grandma were huge Portland, Oregon, what's their basketball team? The Blazers, Portland Blazers. They were huge Portland fans, him and his grandma. And so we were watching the game whenever we could or whatever, the games. And I asked Kurt, I'm like, so he goes, yeah, man, I know I look like a meth head and this and that. He said, I did fuck with that stuff for a while. He said, but he said I was doing dishes, or his grandma was doing dishes, and his partial plate to fill up his fucking massive gap up here, it had fallen into the garbage disposal, and it got chewed up. So he said I had to come here without my plate or my partial, whatever you want to call it. And so I told him, I said, yeah, man, I said, I'll be honest with you guys. So when we first got here, I was like, man, give me anybody but that dude. And we said, so every morning that we got up, Kurt the dude would just make me crack up laughing, like to the point where I was in tears. And I'm a real loud person, so every other room was hearing us just cracking up laughing, and they were like, what the fuck are you guys on, man? We want to go to your guys' room, which was weird. Well, I wouldn't say weird, which was interesting, because there were so many people that would come to our room to study at night. There was always, 10 guys or whatever, and girls in our room, whatever, to study. It was like the fun room, I guess, or whatever. So, anyways, so Kurt and I got along really, really well. And as people were failing, so you had we went to class every day. And you'd have to take a test for that week. So we had three major tests or whatever, which was classroom, then range week, and then road week. So as people were failing, so the way Swift worked was if you failed that week's test to go on to the next phase, if you failed that week, they would give you one chance to redo the test, and if you failed again, you were going home. If you passed, then you would go to the next phase. So people were dropping out like flies. They were dropping like fucking flies, man. I mean, it was crazy that there were so many people that just bam, 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 bam. So I think by the time we got to our range week, we were down to like 100 students. It was weird. Within that week and a few days, we lost, like, for simple math, 150 people, which was actually more. Like I said, I'm doing simple math here. So there was this, and I'm a fat guy. There is this fatter guy, I'll just say that, bald-headed dude, and he was a little slow. His name was Lonnie, or his name is Lonnie, and I actually met or saw Lonnie on the road twice in my driving career, I guess you would say. I actually saw him, and that was interesting, and he remembered me, and Lonnie was a little slow, like I said, but there was a lot of students in there that were like, oh, that dude's retarded. He's going home, quick. So Lonnie was he was like I say, he was an odd dude, slow. But he would constantly talk about this LifeLock, which is like a service that protects your identity. I think it was called LifeLock. And that dude would just go on about it, man, all the time in class. Yeah, man, you got to get LifeLock, man. You got to get LifeLock. He's a white dude. And he was just pushing this fucking LifeLock thing. And people would make fun of him behind his back, whatever. So as we're going through, so now range week comes, and now we're into the whole pre-trip phase, and I'm super nervous because I didn't know jack shit about jack shit. I was like, there's no way in hell I'm gonna fucking pass this, man. But I did, obviously. But there were people that during the range week, all of a sudden you'd see an instructor go up to them, and then all of a sudden you'd see them packing their bags because they were still processing drug tests, and they were just like, came up hot all these days, or this 2 weeks or whatever, and they're sending me home now. I mean, that would be horrible. Excuse me. So back to Lonnie and the LifeLock, Triple L, I guess. So as the third week comes, now that's our road week, and our very first day out. So we had, I think it was like 4 or 5 students to a truck, and then the instructor, which obviously the driver, and then the instructor sitting in the shotgun seat, and then you got 3 or 4 students behind you with no seatbelts on. It was just not old, but it were newer trucks. But we had to go through the whole double clutch thing and all this stuff, man. So our very first day of road week, the instructor says, Sibylla, you're going to go first. I'm like, fuck. I was so fucking intimidated, man. Anyways, it was good. I was like, fuck. I mean, I was super nervous, but it was, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Or maybe it was just scary. I don't know. I mean, it was a challenge. Your very first. I mean, you're talking. I mean, when we had our road week, we didn't get out of first gear. Like, they literally said you will not go higher than first gear. So you got these trucks just going around in this fucking circle where they're teaching us how to straight back, dock back, all this parallel park, all this stuff. And I mean, can you imagine? I mean, how slow a truck goes in first gear? And I don't know. Leave comments. I don't know what anybody else's school was like, but anyways, so Lonnie. So it's our third week, our first day of road week, and Kurt, my celly, his group comes back, and he had a female instructor. There was a husband and wife instructor duo, I guess, or whatever. They had been married for many years, whatever, but they were instructors at the Swift driving school. So the lady, she was pretty intimidating, man. She was a fucking firecracker, man. She didn't put up with no bullshit. And Kurt, when their group came in, Kurt was at the wheel. He looked fucking terrified. That dude, he had such a gloomy looking. I mean, he was miserable. And so when he got out of the truck, we went back to the room to study more, because you still got to do your pre-trip test when you take your final CDL test. Holy shit! There's a big ass fucking piece of metal on the highway. Damn. If there wasn't a couple big ass trucks behind me, I would have fucking pulled over and pulled that off the road. Someone's gonna get hurt. So Kurt's is terrified. This dude is terrified. He's like, Kurt, man, I can't do this. And I was like, what? And he goes, I can't, man. I'm like fucking so scared behind the wheel. And he said, I'm just gonna go home, man. And I was like, no, man, come on, you can't. He's like, I said, give it one more day. He's like, I can't. And he did so well with the other test. But he's like, no, he was just a nervous wreck. So he actually went home. I was really sad to see him go. But anyway, so the next day or whatever, next couple days or whatever, we're doing the road week or whatever. And like I said, we didn't have any days off. It was straight, just bam, bam, bam. So you're pretty tired, man. I mean, we would be in class. We'd be at we're up at 4, in the lobby by 4:45, in class by 5, and every single day was like that. There wasn't on weekends. We're going to be here at set. It was every day like that. And then you'd have to go back to your room or your cell. You'd have to fucking study, right? It was, I'm not going to lie, man, it was pretty exhausting. And we ended up graduating with 17 students out of over 250 students. We graduated with 17 students. That is the failure rate for CDL, school, at least for Swift. And they say that Washington State is the hardest state to get your CDL in, and Idaho, they say, is the second hardest, believe it or not. I don't know. That's just what the instructors were saying. The couple state troopers that came in and talked to our class, and so they were like, this is a big deal that you guys pass this, So, anyways, so Lonnie, I'm sorry. I fucking, my compass is all fucked up, man. I get onto something and I completely forget what the fuck I was talking about. So anyways, Lonnie's pushing this LifeLock, and now the study group in our room is, maybe 6 or 8 of us, and it's all guys. We're just fucking clowning around, and Lonnie's room is directly above us. So Kurt and I, Kurt had gone home, but Kurt and I had a first floor room. And they had this, and here I go again, whoop, going off the fucking edge. Lewiston, Idaho has this paper mill. It's called Potlatch. And that shit, man, oh, dude, every time when I smell that smell, it instantly brings me back to driving school, because it's such a fucking disgusting, nasty smell from a paper mill. I mean, Lewiston, the entire town, the entire city smelled of the potlatch. It was just disgusting. Anyways, so we would try to, well, we had our air conditioning on because you couldn't leave the windows open because it smelled so bad, and it depended on which way the wind was blowing. But anyway, so Lonnie, and I don't know why I just said that, I have no fucking idea. So Lonnie's room is right above ours, or now mine, and he's going on about this LifeLock. So I told the guys, like, oh, we're gonna fuck with Lonnie. And I really got along with Lonnie, maybe because I'm kind of a fucking retard myself, but he and I got along well. It's kind of like that, you feel bad for the bullied kid, you know, so, but everybody is fair game, retard or not. Everybody is fair game to pranks and jokes and whatever. Everybody's fair game. So, damn it, I wanted to go get my truck washed. Damn it. I'll get it washed when I leave here. I had to come back home to get my shop closed. So we know that Lonnie's upstairs because he's a bigger dude, and he's heavy footed when he walks. Boom, boom, boom. This and that. So I call up to his room, and I tell Lonnie, I said, hi, I forgot what name I used. It was like, this is so-and-so, representative for LifeLock, and is this Lonnie? I think his last name was Borden. Is this Lonnie Borden? And he's like, yeah, it is. Now, I call up to his room, so you would think, like, okay, how did LifeLock get my room number? But like I said, Lonnie was slow. So and the guys are all in the room, and they're cracking up, because we can hear them talking right above us to me. I say, hey, Lonnie, all right, so Mr. Borden, this is, we'll just say Rory, because the name Rory is kind of, unless you're watching this, Rory, you got the coolest name on the planet, but I hate the name Rory. So, I'm like, yeah, this is so-and-so from LifeLock. Is this Mr. Borden? But he goes, yes, it is. I said, we currently see that you're in Lewiston, Idaho. Is that correct? He goes, yeah, that's me. And he's really believing this thing. So he was like, what happened? I said, well, we're going to send a state trooper over to your room. We busted some people trying to use your identity. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah. I said, he said, well, what do you mean they tried to use my card? I said, yeah, they used it in like 3 different areas or 3 different places or whatever. I said they tried buying a mongoose. Swear to God, they tried buying a mongoose at a pet store, and then they were trying to buy a black market baby, and then they were at a strip club. He goes, oh my God, those are terrible people, or whatever he said. And we said, we'll have a state trooper come over and meet you in the lobby. So we hear him, boom, 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 over to the door. And then he's right down in the lobby. And we're looking out the window, and we could see he's standing right by the lobby. So we're just leaving him there. And then, I don't know, maybe about an hour later, we call him back. We're like, Mr. Borden, we sent a trooper over there, but you weren't in the lobby. He goes, I was there the whole time. He said, "Are you sure they came over here?" We're like, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Man, these people are going to drain my account, man. You got to get the police over here, man. We gotta arrest these criminals." So again, we tell them, we're like, "Yeah, man, troopers coming over." Now we can hear him, boom, 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 walking over, shutting the door, and then he's going down because we were like the second to last room from the front desk, which was a long hallway. But the hotel kind of curved a little bit. So, anyways, he goes again all the way down there, and we're waiting like another hour. And I could see this dude is like, he's a fucking nervous wreck, man. He's like, and at this point, I'm like, man, I feel bad for him. So, anyways, we told him it was just a prank or whatever. So, anyways, like I said, I've seen Lonnie on the road literally twice, which, what are the chances? But the dude Carl I'm telling you about, that's not his real name. We're going to call him Carl. I've actually seen him on the road 3 times, driving once in New Mexico, once in Colorado, and once in Iowa. Oh, no, yeah. And then just, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, I saw him in Iowa. He was driving next to my truck, and he looked, and I see the truck kind of, reduce its speed, and he looks and he goes, and I was like, oh fuck. Anyways, again, off the rail. So now let's fast forward, get my CDL, and I wanted to do flatbed. And this is really interesting because Swift, it's like they want us to do, or they wanted to do the opposite of what we wanted. So I wanted to be flatbed. And because that's my guy, Carl, he had trained me to flatbed. And he taught me how to chain, strap, tarp, everything. The only thing he didn't teach me was logs. We were on papers back then. But he didn't teach me how to log. I was taught how to log when obviously I was in driving school, and then when I went out with a trainer. But Carl, that motherfucker never had logs. That dude, he just didn't give a fuck. Anyways, so Carl had taught me how to, so I wanted to continue because I love flatbedding. I really do. And it's a lot of hard work with, everything that I just mentioned, strapping, tarping, chain, heat, cold, snow, rain, it doesn't matter. So, anyways, so I went to the Swift flatbedding class, and they had a terminal in Gary, Indiana. So I go from the Idaho. I think I went home for a few days to transfer my license back to Wisconsin, and then went over to Gary, Indiana. And there was the same situation there. We had to share a room with a celly. So there was probably maybe 10 of us. And I met he's still my buddy to this day, Aaron Childress, Aaron Childers. He actually shot himself years back and missed his heart by millimeters, I guess. My wife can verify that. And like I said, I'm a very transparent person. I used to not be very transparent, but I've learned a lot about myself and everything else this last few years. So, but I'm telling you everything that goes on because I am transparent, and everything I'm saying is truth. So, we went to class during the day, and then it was like a week-long class, I want to say. And then us guys would go over to this strip club, which was like right next door to the hotel. It was called Deja Vu, I think it was called. I don't know if that's still the name. It was a long time ago. So fast forward, we graduate, or we're certified now to do flatbed, which is weird because we were all in this flatbed class, And then, because we're at the terminal, we're waiting for the trainer to come pick us up. My trainer's name was, well, unless he's dead, but if he's still alive, his name's Larry Tolbert. And he pulled containers for Swift out of the Chicago rail yard. And we would go pretty much just like Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota. So kind of like a little regional, I guess it would be called. Which I didn't want. I wanted strict, I wanted long haul. I wanted over the road. So Larry comes and picks me up, and it's a container. And I'm like, I thought I was doing flatbed. Oh no, we need drivers in the intermodal container situation. So Aaron, my buddy Aaron Childers, he actually wanted to do containers because he's from St. Louis. He wanted to do containers and stay regional, but his trainer, and he didn't want to. He was in the flatbed class, but that was the only route they wanted him to go, I guess. And he was like, I don't want to really flatbed. They just told me that they needed flatbedders. That's why I took this class. He said, but his wife at the time, they were just dating. And he's like, she prefers me to be closer to home. But they got, because we would talk just about every day about our trainers. And he was telling me, he goes, yeah, he said, my trainer's super cool. He's an owner-operator for Swift. And we're, he goes coast to coast, and he's flatbed. So he's teaching me a lot. He goes, how is it that you wanted, talking about me, you wanted to go flatbed, go over the road, and they have you on containers doing this little regional thing, and they have me that I would want to do the regional containers instead of this and going long haul. He said, you would think they would just switch us. And I was like, yeah. And then we found out from some other guys that we had talked with in our class, they had the same thing. It was like the opposite of whatever you wanted is what's, and I get it with the big companies, you go where you're needed. I get that, because when I talked to the Swift recruiter, he told me that I have a 2-year commitment with Swift. So anyways, fast forward, Aaron's still out with his guy, and he's been out now for like 4 or 5 days. Then he calls me and he's like, dude, I can't drive. He said, my trainer's got to get me back to the terminal. He said, they won't let me drive the truck. He said, that's weird. I'm like, that is weird. Anyways, when he got back to the terminal, they terminated him because they found out that he had like 3 DUIs or 4 DUIs or something like that. But you didn't know that prior to him going to school. It was really weird. So fast forward, Aaron now goes back to St. Louis, whatever. And I'm in the truck with Larry Tolbert. The very first day he picks me up at the terminal, he's driving. I'm sitting in the shotgun, and he in the shotgun seat, and he was missing nuggets as well. Short older dude from Michigan, and he tells me, he says, and I remember it was nighttime, and I remember him saying, all I want you to do is look at the mileposts. He said that's very, very important that you know where you're at. And we didn't run a GPS back then. GPSs were around, but we did everything off the Atlas. And him running containers and running like regional, he knew where everything was, but he wanted to make sure. He asked me if I knew how to read an atlas. I said, yeah, when I was in the military, we read maps and so on and so on. And he goes, oh, that's good. That's good. He says, so I want you to just pay attention to the mileposts and the exits and all this stuff. So I'm like, all right, your truck, your rules. I'm a rookie here. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So I'm just paying attention to the mileposts, the exits, and then he would ask me, what milepost are we at? So I would tell him. He goes, oh, okay, good. I want to make sure I'm just doing that instead of, staring off into the wilderness or whatever, right? So he was playing this game, right? And he, how you doing? It's our neighbor. Anyways, I don't think I drove that night. We shut down. I'm not exactly sure where, but it must have been like a TA or a Petro. Back then they had these big, and I don't see any of them open anymore. They had those big tubes, like really large, like maybe a foot in diameter, maybe. And you could, instead of idling your truck, because Swift being a big company, they didn't want us idling our truck. And he had a brand new truck. It was like when the Freightliner Columbias came out. He had a Freightliner Columbia. It was brand new. And we parked at the truck stop for the night. And this dude was so fucking cheap. He's like, oh man, he said, this is when I was kind of like, man, maybe truck driving is not that profitable. Because everybody said, oh yeah, you'll make decent amount of money, blah blah. And he was so cheap, or maybe he just didn't have the money on this AC system that these truck stops had. You could buy the whatever, or you could activate, I guess is what I'm trying to say, the AC instead of idling your truck, because it was hot as fuck. It was right before Memorial Day, and that's important. So it was warm, and he was so cheap. He goes, nah man, I'm not doing well. And he made, of course, as everybody should. And I learned a lot afterwards, which made sense what Larry told me. But he was like, make sure that the doors are always locked, your windows are closed. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, and I didn't really know. Like I said, I was, geography illiterate, I guess, or geographically illiterate. So I didn't really know much about Gary, Indiana. And I want to say that's where we were for the night. And he's like, so we're going to have the windows up. He said, you can crack them or whatever. And it is fucking hot as a fucking oven in this damn truck. It is. I mean, people say, oh, like the Midwest is, the humidity, but the, Texas and Arizona and, whatever, Southern California, that heat isn't like the Midwest. And they're right. It's not the same kind of heat. But they're like, it's a dry heat, so it's not as bad as the heat. Man, a fucking oven is dry heat. Would you want to sit in a fucking oven all day? I wouldn't. Unless you're a Jew, I guess, because of the ovens. Too soon? I'm sorry. Anyways, so he doesn't want to pay for AC. It is fucking hot. So, of course, I don't sleep, blah, blah. And he slept with a CPAP machine, also very important. So we run, and he lets me start driving. He's teaching me how to do the Qualcomm, all this stuff, and I'm like, wow, man, this is pretty intense. But I remember my first, again, I got to back up because I jump around. When I first got in the truck, and I've pretty, I mean, my adult life, I like to dress nice in my, whatever. So I wasn't like fucking a suit or dress shirt or anything, But he got the impression from me, the way I dressed, the way I carried myself. I told him I used to be in real estate, all this stuff. He just assumed, like I assumed about Monkey Kurt or Chimpanzee Kurt, he just assumed that I knew all these people. He goes, yeah, your friends probably all got Porsches and Lamborghini. I'm like, no, man. I said it. So that was his first impression of me. And I don't know if he kind of didn't like me because of that. But he said, oh, you're probably wondering why I'm missing my teeth. He was missing, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 nuggets in his mouth. And they were like, not like Kurt with the whole plate, but they were like here, whatever, bottom. And then he's like, yeah, you probably wondering why I'm missing so many teeth. I'm like, no, not really. Not my business. I said, no, not. He goes, oh. And I don't know if he was doing this to impress me or show me how, or tell me how tough he is or whatever, or was. He said, yeah, he said, I pulled them out myself with the pliers. I'm like, what? You literally pulled your fucking teeth out with the pliers? He said, yeah, he said, I pulled one because I had a toothache. I pulled one and realized that wasn't the tooth. So I pulled another one. That wasn't the. He said by the time he pulled like his 4th or 5th tooth, he realized it wasn't a toothache, it was an earache. And I'm like, what the fuck? So, like I said, he slept with a CPAP machine. And I remember the first night I actually slept some. He goes, man, dude, he goes, he said, you really need a CPAP, man. He said, you stopped breathing for a very long time, and you need to get sleep. And these trucks are so dangerous. You need to have your sleep. I knew nothing about a CPAP machine. Nothing. I have one now, and Larry made a lot of sense because now I don't go anywhere without my CPAP machine. If you have sleep apnea, you need to get a sleep study and get a CPAP machine. Because when I first got my a real true 8 hours sleep, I was amazed. I was like, wow, how important that is. And this is important. So he said, dude, you need a CPAP machine, man, especially if you're in this truck. He said, if I don't have my CPAP, Larry, if I don't have my CPAP, I cannot operate this truck. And he was adamant about that. And I was like, okay, all right, dude, all right. I don't know why you're telling me all that. So anyway, so that was our first day, was sit there, look at the mileposts, and you're probably wondering why I'm missing, 4 or 5 of my teeth. Okay. So then that night, the air conditioning thing. And another thing he told me was, we don't go into the back of the truck where we sleep. We don't go in there with our shoes on. He said because truck stop parking lots, guys piss out there. There's whatever, oil and fuel and just dirt and grime. So I'm like, hey, I understand that. So he said, make sure you pull off your shoes before we go in the back. I'm like, all right. So he would constantly tell me about the doors being locked and this and that. So I crawled up in the bunk because I'm on the top, he's on the bottom. And I get, comfy or whatever. And he's like, Kurt. I'm like, yeah. He goes, come up here real quick. So I'm like, yeah. So I jump down and I'm like, what's up? And he's like, lock your door. I'm like, this motherfucker. So shame on me because I didn't lock the door. I lock it and I'm pretty irritated. I don't tell him it's his truck, his rules, and he's right. You should always lock your fucking doors if you're parked for the night. Even when you're driving, you should keep your doors locked. Get a fucking psychopath trying to open your door or whatever. So another thing I wasn't aware of. So then he we go to dinners whatever night. I was on the road with him for like maybe 2 or 3 weeks. and the dude's really getting on my fucking nerves. So the very first time that, and this makes a lot of sense. So the very first time he had me drive, he drove without his shoes. He drove with just his socks. Oh, and another thing he did, on the radio, we weren't allowed to listen to the radio unless it was on Seek. You know, the stereos, you know, old school, you got a search button or a Seek button, right? So if you hit the Seek button, it would go to the next channel, the next radio station. It would play for like 5 seconds and then go to another radio station, play for 5 seconds, and then skip to another, because it's Seek. The radio is seeking a station for you to listen to. This dude, Larry Tolbert, he fucking listened. He said the only way we're gonna listen to music, the only way we're gonna listen to the radio is on Seek. I'm like, is this dude fucking with me? And he's like, yeah. He said the reason why I do that is because you won't get distracted when you're driving. If you're listening to a song, you'll be distracted. So he literally listened to the radio, or we listened to the radio on Seek. Every day we were in that truck. You want to talk about fucking maddening? That was literally fucking insane. But there was one song that he would stop the Seek play on. And it was that Kid Rock song, that Summertime Michigan or whatever, Hometown Michigan. And that song was popular when it first came out. So this dude, literally, whenever he heard that song, he would stop the Seek. He'd be jamming out to it. As soon as the song was over, he'd hit Seek. And like I said, it was fucking maddening, man. It was like, what the fuck, dude? What is wrong with you? Fucking pull out your teeth. So let's get back to the driving with the socks. So he tells me, Kurt, I want you to pull your shoes off when you drive. I'm like, I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not an experienced driver. Even to this day, I don't drive with my fucking shoes off. There's guys out there, hey, you do you, player. I prefer to keep my shoes on when I drive. So I'm like, well, they told us we're not supposed to do that. I don't know if the dude's testing me because he doesn't like me, or he's trying to set me up to get me fired or something. So I'm like, man, I don't know, man. I'm not. He goes, no, I want you to take your shoes off, and it was like he didn't force me, but he forced me to take my shoes off. And not like I was intimidated by this guy. I fucking could have beat the dog shit out of him. I could have beat the white dog shit out of him. And so I take my shoes off like a good fucking slave, like a good monkey. And he says, the reason why I'm having you do that, and this, at the time, it didn't make sense. It makes sense to me now. Not the driving without the shoes, but what Larry Tolbert told me why we should drive with our shoes off. He says, you have to be one with the truck. And I'm like, excuse me? He goes, yeah, you got to feel the truck. You got to feel, and he's passionate about this. He's like, you got to feel the truck. You got to hear the truck. You got to feel the truck. And I look at him like, dude, you need to go back. You need to go home for a little while, because he had told me, like, he's got a wife and kids back in Michigan, but he's gone a lot. And I'm like, dude, you need to get out of this truck, man, and you need to fucking go home for a while. He goes, yeah, maybe I'm a little bit crazy. And again, I don't know if he was trying to intimidate me or try to put on this tough guy facade or whatever. So anyways, I told him, I said, I wasn't comfortable with that, so I put my shoes back on and this and that. So fast forward, he tells me, he's like, hey man, and this is why I knew it was Memorial Day, because of the holiday, the Monday. And he says, listen man, he said, I'm gonna get you home for the Memorial Day weekend. And he's like, what I say goes. When I tell Swift, hey, I want this, they give it to me. If I tell Swift I want this, they make it happen. He said, I'm going to get you home for the Memorial Day weekend. You know, you've been working hard, whatever the case is. And he says, you've done pretty, really well or whatever, blah, blah. And he said, it's pretty much, you need to go home for a little while. And I'm sure he could probably see I was extremely irritated with his ass too. And I'll tell you why. So, anyways, he's like, you're gonna go home, man. He said, my word is the final word. All this fucking tooting his own horn, this and that. I'm this, I'm that. So he puts that in the Qualcomm, talks to the dispatch or whatever, and he hangs up or whatever. And he's like, yeah, man. He said, they'll let me know when we're, if we can get a load to go drop you off or whatever. Now we're in Illinois, and he says they call, or he sees on the Qualcomm, I believe it was. He goes, oh man, he says, yeah, they don't want you to go home yet. So we're gonna pick up a container and we're gonna take it up to Green Bay. And I'm like, dude, you were just sitting there fucking talking about how you have the final word, how Swift pretty much sucks on it, right? And so that right there just really fucking turned me off. I'm like, you motherfucker, man. So anyways, like I said, we didn't run GPS. So I'm not, I bite the bullet or whatever, and I'm like, well, if I gotta stay out, I gotta stay out. That's why I decided to drive truck. So anyways, we come to this like backed up traffic, and we're on like 294 in Illinois. And in Illinois they got all those oasis, those rest areas or whatever that go over the freeway. And we're coming to the stop. He's driving, I'm in the shotgun seat, and he tells me, he goes, Kurt, because he kept the Atlas in the back. And he says, Kurt, grab the Atlas, man, quick. He says, well, I got to see if we can get off on this exit. It looks like, he's hearing on the CB like it's backed up for fucking miles. He goes, hurry up, grab the Atlas, hurry up. So I have my shoes on, but he's sounding like this is ASAP. Like you better do this now, because he wants to see if we can get off on this exit. So I jump out of the seat, I go back, I grab the Atlas, I look through it, I'm like, yeah, actually you could take this next exit, we'll bring you to whatever highway, blah, blah. We'll take that down. He goes, right on, nice work, man, nice work. Wow, that was nice. So as we're getting off, I just lay the Atlas down on the floor, because it's a manual truck, and I'm like, well, in case he needs me to grab it again. And as we're driving, you could just see his fucking wheels are turning. And and I'll have to tell you another thing. So anyways, this motherfucker's I could just see his wheels are going, right? And he says, man, that was a good job. He said, but what did you do that you're not supposed to do in the truck? And I'm thinking, I'm like, what the fuck I'm like, oh, this motherfucker, because of the shoes. And shame on me, right? But I'm thinking that, hey, all that aside, so I know what he's getting to. And he's like, so what did you do? I'm like, we're not supposed to. He says, what are we not supposed to do in the truck? I'm like, color on the walls? And he looks at me. He goes, color on the walls? no, not color on the walls. I'm like, whatever. I just remember the first thing I said was color on the walls. And then I said a couple other ridiculous things. But I remember specifically saying we're not supposed to color on the walls because of the look you gave me. He goes, no, Kurt, we're not supposed to go in the back with our shoes on. And you went in the back with your shoes on. And I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I said, you made it sound like it was urgent. He goes, it was urgent, but you broke the rules of the truck. I'm like, this motherfucker, man. So I had already reached out to my brother because I know I got to get out of this fucking truck. So I'd already reached out to my brother and said, hey, meet us at this Oasis because I'm getting out of this motherfucker's truck. And so anyways, so we end up getting back on the interstate, past the traffic, and I tell Larry, I'm like, hey, at this next Oasis, man, I said, I'll be honest with you. I said, I called my brother and told him, hey, meet me over there. Because it's not that far over the Wisconsin border. The Oasis, it's called the Lake Forest Oasis. And I told him, I said, hey, my brother's going to come pick me up, man. I said, I got to get out of this truck for a little while. I said, I'm going to put my fucking hands on you. And he, what? I said, I need to get out of this truck or I'm going to put my fucking hands on you. And he fucking, he was scared then. It was like, oh, this motherfucker's really serious. But anyways, so I got out of the truck. My brother came and got me. I know this is a long-ass story, sorry, long-ass truth. He says, I get out of the truck, Memorial Day passes, and I get a call from Swift, from the lady that's in charge of whatever, new drivers or what, black chick. And she's like, hey, Kurt, when you going to get back in the truck with Larry? And I'm like, I ain't getting back in the truck with Larry. And she's like, excuse me? I said, I'm not getting back in the truck with Larry. He's a fucking weirdo, man. He's a psychopath. And I said, and I'm going to put my hands on him if you put me back in the truck with him. And I said, if you give me another trainer, then I'll go out. But until then, I'm not getting in the truck with Larry Tolbert anymore. And she said, now she gets real good. She goes, oh, you going to get back in that truck. You going to get back in that truck because you got a 2-year agreement. You going to get back in that truck. I said, the fuck I am. I said, fuck you and fuck Swift. And I never went back. They fucking, tried, putting a judgment on me. That was how many years ago, which is off now. But anyways, because in my inexperience, my inexperience and not knowing, I'm thinking, well, fuck, I got a CDL already. All I got to do is go to another company. They'll hire me. Well, that's not the case. You got to have 2 years verifiable experience, or you got to have 2 years verifiable experience. You got to have 2 years of driving. I didn't know all this. So anyways, I went and got a fucking job with E80 Constructors, this company that builds bridges. Anyways, when I get this job, I get a fucking DUI. I'll have to tell you what happened on that one. This has gone way too long. And I wasn't even in my personal vehicle when I got the DUI. That's the crazy part about it. Stay tuned for that one. So another thing that I was really fucking pissed off about Tolbert, it had been a culmination of things that built up to the I'm gonna put my fucking hands on you. We were at the terminal and he was doing laundry and we were getting something done on the truck. Oh, because I broke the upper window by the bunk. The latch was stuck, and I don't know, I had already opened it before to get air up on the top bunk, but the thing was fucking jammed. So Larry goes up there, he's like, man, this fucker won't open up, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, it's got to open up. I just had it open. So I go back up there and I'm fucking with fucking break the whole fucking upper window. So they had to replace it at the terminal. So we're there for a day or two. He's doing laundry. I'm sitting in the TV room watching TV. He comes waltzing in. Kurt, now he had already told me about the CPAP. how important it is, right? Like, this is my lifeline. Like, him saying that, like, this is my lifeline. And I get that now because I understand now how important it is. Back then, I didn't know what the fuck a CPAP machine was. And so he like bust. So I was doing laundry as well. And what I did was I took my wet clothes because the dryers were all, full. I just went ahead and put some things on my bunk to air dry. But I saw the hose for the CPAP machine coming out of wherever he kept it, and the hose was still connected to it and was underneath his bed. It was underneath his bed covers. Well, he had told me that's his lifeline, right? So I'm trying to get up on the bunk, but the CPAP hose is right there, and I didn't know it until he told me. I didn't know it was underneath the covers. So I step or whatever, because I'm putting clothes up on the top bunk to air dry, and fast forward, I'm in the TV room, blah, 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 and he comes fucking bursting in. Bussy goes, "Kurt." I said, "Yeah." He said, "What'd I tell you about my CPAP?" And I'm like, I don't know. He goes, "Didn't I tell you that that's my lifeline? I need that to drive." And he's fucking really blowing a gasket on this thing. And he's like, "I told you how important that is, man. If I don't have," and I'm like, I'm still not getting it. He goes, "The hose was underneath my covers, and you had to have stepped on it when you went to step on the step or something, and you kinked the hose." And I'm like, "I don't understand. I didn't even know it was there." He goes, "You should have known it was there." And I'm like, "Listen, dude," I said, "if it's so fucking important to you, why wouldn't you coil the motherfucker up and put it in the damn drawer, right? Or put it in the cabinet? How important?" And I start going off on this dude. So anyways, it was a culmination of a lot of things with that dude. Larry Tolbert, fucking, if he's still alive, you're a fucking, there are things that make sense to me now, but as a brand new driver, I didn't fucking know. So anyways, I have made this video way too fucking long, but that's one of the truths. And that's how I got into CDL trucking, and that's exactly how I told Swift to go fuck themselves. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get this video done. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Ciao.